We're back here on Yaffee Live. This is The Talk Monster. I'm Tennessee's voice of reason. Joining me, as he does every Thursday on the show, is Brandon Lewis. He's the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can read the latest stuff he has put out at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today, my friend?
Doing all right, but it is a sad day.
It really is. Really a dark day, as President Trump put it. And I don't know if you've ever met Charlie Kirk. Obviously, you knew of him. But you had a really interesting post on your Facebook about just the impact he had when it came to electoral politics.
Yeah, I did get a chance to meet him ever so briefly at Calvary Chapel. And as I mentioned in that post, you know, most people like him because he was an encyclopedia of conservative knowledge, and he could rapidly stitch together facts in such a fashion as to be a remarkable defender of our traditional American way of life. However, the longer I've been in this, in various capacities, from campaigns to publishing and just as a lover of conservative talk radio and all things in that area, the older I get, the more tired I get of folks that talk the talk but rarely walk the walk, and that's most conservative talking heads. I mean, it's a paycheck, it's a pitch, but when you look at how they live their lives in their local community and the impact that they're having, like, it's usually very negligible. But Charlie's ultimate sin, and I would almost submit why he likely was targeted, was because he was so effective. You know, his voter turnout effort, Chase the Vote, spent and raised $108 million and chased 80,000 low propensity ballots in Arizona. What's a low propensity ballot? That's what we call in campaigning like a 1 of 4. Somebody that's only voted in one of the last 4. A 3 of 4 or a 4 of 4 would be high propensity. And they were able to turn out an additional 30,000 Arizona Republicans that were inactive since 2018. He had a 25 swing state college tour that targeted primarily Trump's Gen Z male support, which went up on those campuses. He engaged 500 pastors, mobilized thousands of evangelical voters in Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. He trained just in Arizona 7,000 volunteers, which means 2 or 3 per precinct. I mean, that is a huge amount of volunteers out there. He had 1,000 full-time staff at the time, and he recruited other people from outside the state to focus on these swing states through phone calls. And finally, they ended up spending $85 million in TPUSA, which is different than Chase the Vote, largely on voter turnout and engagement efforts. And so what I would say to people that are in Hamilton County whose hearts are broken like mine are, or people across the state of Tennessee, is, you know, turn that rage and weeping into work. Follow the man's example. He did not just pontificate on conservative issues. He didn't just post on social media. He just didn't get in the holy conservative huddle. He's like, what can I practically do? And for most of your listeners, it's knock on a door, make a phone call, donate to a local candidate, run for an office, volunteer for a campaign. This armchair conservatism is not something that Charlie Kirk wanted out of the movement. And I think the best way we could likely honor his memory is to emulate his example.
Yeah, I mean, you just go over a lot of those statistics. It's hard to point to anyone else having as much of an impact on conservative young people, especially conservative young men. And like you said, actually getting them to show up, to organize, and to vote. I don't know if there's anyone who's had a greater impact in the last 10 years.
I can't recall in my lifetime. You know, Rush Limbaugh could move people, and he could, through his voice, turn out people. However, like, he never created a separate organization specifically and only for the campaign apparatus, which is, you know, one thing that turns around the culture as you get strong leaders like Trump who aren't afraid to speak the truth. It changes the culture. People are like, oh, okay, there are only 2 genders. Oh, it's okay to say that I want my kids to have traditional values. It's okay to say that we shouldn't have porn in schools. And people were so cowed in silence because we had such evil, corrupt leadership for so long. But he just really, I mean, that's the thing that I admired about him the most, is that he actually went out and did stuff that made a difference. It's beyond the talk and into the practical, and I've always been a lover of the practical.
speaking with Brandon Lewis, who is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. What do you think this means for the future of the country? In all seriousness, I mean, the goal of this kind of stuff is to silence conservatives. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, his voice is going to be more amplified than ever possible because of this. It's horrific it takes this, but it will be. But, conservatives are going to think twice about doing certain things, right? About organizing, about having outside events, about speaking their mind because they're afraid of the reaction. What do you think?
I don't know that they are. I think the things that we saw, I mean, you would think when you saw Trump's assassination attempt, I don't believe that it cowed conservatives. I believe it emboldened them. When you see these extreme examples of left-wing ideology gone wrong and how it's corrupting our government and how it's corrupting our culture and our kids and our churches and our schools, I think it just makes people more likely to do it and to get out there and to have their voices heard. I mean, there's a risk in all things that you do in life, and I just don't think that you can live your life cowering in fear. I don't want to set that example for my children, and I don't want to, go to my grave having said, well, I was just too afraid to act, or worse yet, too lazy. Which is probably worse than being afraid. If you have convictions but you don't act on them, I mean, are they really convictions at all? And so I'm not sure. This stuff's above my pay grade. If I ever, had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Charlie Kirk, it wouldn't have ever been about general political philosophy. I feel like I've learned enough of that I'm past the point of diminishing returns, and I would say 99% of your audience is as well. But what I would love to have talked to him about is how did you organize, put together, train, lead, and inspire so many people that made a practical impact in politics? To me, the mechanics of running races, which is the key to victory. It's why I coach candidates and have started getting back into that again, is because it's what I love. And so he was very unique in conservative spheres, and I hope we see more like him, but I don't know if we will very soon.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis, the founder of the Tennessee Conservative, I think one of his biggest legacies is his openness about his faith. And obviously, as he matured, as he became more famous, he actually matured. That usually it's like the opposite. You get crazier as you get more famous, but it was the opposite for him. He matured and became an example and was much more open about his faith as he went along, and that's really encouraging.
He was an amazing apologist. I wouldn't say different people work in different spheres, but that he was, for the generation that he reached, specifically college-age people and more particularly college-age men, they're never going to pick up a book and read C.S. Lewis. It took somebody like Charlie Kirk to go physically show up at college campuses and to build a following, to sign people up, to wake folks up, because, most of them were just hearing garbage on college campuses. I mean, we're reporting now at least two separate incidences of college professors and administrators. I think one at Tennessee State, if I may be misspeaking because it's breaking, and one at MTSU, that basically said, we're glad he's dead. I mean, and these are the environments in which he used to walk into, completely antithetical to Christians, traditional values, and conservatism. And when you walk right into the, to the den of the beast to wage war, even if it's just with words, I mean, there are consequences. And again, he paid the ultimate price, likely because he was so remarkably effective. And so I think one thing in Tennessee, in addition to the fact that we need to be more engaged as individuals, is that our politicians need to quit taking conservative Republican taxpayer dollars to fund these woke indoctrination centers that we call colleges now, where we put kids in that are Christians and conservative, and they come out with this vitriol like many of the administrators have been expressing recently in the wake of Kirk's death, and I hope they're all fired. I think one of them already has been, but it's amazing that we fund our own destruction by completely rewiring the minds of our kids in Tennessee when we send them to these places.
Yeah, well, and it's even beyond that. You're talking about higher education, but I mean, grade school. Some of that happens
Yes.
there, and other places in government and our pop culture. It's why we do what we do, you and I, honestly. It's because you got to push back in some way. Now, you had talked about some of the reaction there. I will say, from most Democrat lawmakers, most prominent media people, even on the other side, they've had the right reaction. But, I see people on social media that I know, that I'm friends with, family, whatever. And some of the reaction is like what you said about those professors or administrators on college campuses. It's countless. How do we get to that point, you think?
Well, I think most politicians can tell where the wind is blowing, and whether they believe it or not, or silently are glad that one of their greatest adversaries is now deceased, they have the common sense or the political instincts not to say it, right? So how genuine the expressions of this, that, and the other are from various people is anybody's guess. But people in general have just become remarkably tribalistic. We don't read books anymore. We read sound bites. We don't know our neighbors. We know their social media accounts. We don't interact with folks like we used to. We used to think the world was outside of our door and in our backyards and across the street. And now we think it's on this little electronic device, which is not what reality is. And so I think we have this huge confluence of cultural and technological influences that are just very negative, and they strip people of their humanity, their ability to think critically, and it is starving them of practical information about our nation's founding relative to what the rest of the world really looks like. And so folks get in their own little echo chambers and online cultures, and when you virtually interact on your phone and very little else about politics or civics, you don't have any consequences of being face-to-face. Keyboard warriors never get hurt because they're really not in the fight to begin with. And so I think all of those things have converged to create a less informed electorate, a less compassionate, sympathetic electorate, and that's the kind of stuff that is above my pay grade as to fix. And so I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it because I'm like, what's right in front of me that I can influence? And Charlie spent a vast amount of time, money, and effort taking the practical approach. And so I think in closing, we just need to be moderated in how much time we spend consuming information and reacting online versus how much time we spend in our lives with the money and the time that we're blessed with to actually make a physical, measurable difference in the real world, not just online and not just in media.
I have to say it's interesting as you're talking about this. It's just coming to. I'm just thinking about it now. I mean, one thing that Charlie Kirk did was try to have more of those. I mean, he did the typical online stuff too. I'm not going to deny that, viral posts and everything. But if you actually went to one of his events, it really was like real people having real conversations, getting together and thinking deeper about these issues and critical thinking. And that I guess maybe that is part of the solution. Getting people off of the phone, coming out to an event that you have organized, and getting people to think about these issues in a deeper way and have conversations, even that can be somewhat uncomfortable in person. I'll give you the last word on this before we take a break.
Well, he was a remarkable talent. There's a difference between someone who can argue and someone who can persuade. I don't count myself to always be the best at persuasion. Typically, I'm a hammer. Everything I'm working on is a nail. There's certain attributes I don't have, but Charlie Kirk was just an amazing apologist and an effective apologist for conservatism on college campuses. I mean, people's eyes were either open that had never thought about it, people's minds were changed, and he had just a remarkable talent for that. But he was also one of those rare people that had more than one gift. And his other giftedness, which I've not really heard anybody talk about extensively, was this practical political engagement that he led. And so I hope more of our conservative media personalities will turn some of their resources and time toward those things, especially in their own backyard in Tennessee. We've got the Daily Wire. We've got all these other folks that are here, and so often they do not engage locally or at the state level. And so I hope that his example will be repeated or adopted, because somebody needs to pick up that torch as well.
Brandon Lewis is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can read his stuff, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Also, he's on social media as well. Brandon, always appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week.
Appreciate you, buddy.